we got another Reddit post, and I saw this one, and I thought it was pretty funny. There's a lot of comments on it. Why is flaking and ghosting so common by women in dating? And I feel like if you're a dude, this question right here has almost 100% popped up in your head at least one occasion. It probably pops up like every time you go on a date and some chick flakes, because chicks will probably flake like 9 out of 10 times. But I'm sure at least once you sat there and thought to yourself, why do girls flake so much? I don't understand it. Now, I have my theories. I don't know of a specific reason why girls flake. I'm sure there are many reasons why girls flake. I'm sure there's not like just one answer for 100% of the girls. I'm going to give my 2 cents and my perspective, and maybe even like some counters to the flaking thing. First of all, I'm going to say this. This is just like a prerequisite. And I'm curious if any girls watch this. I'm curious to see your perspectives in the comments, what you think about this. Or maybe just tell us why you specifically flake if you have flaked. And be honest, because I'm sure you have flaked. So be honest with yourself. I want to say this in the beginning, and I know this is probably going to like, maybe this will piss people off. I'm a massive advocate of I've said this before in different videos, but before you're exclusive with a girl, I'm a massive advocate of just dating multiple girls at one time. And when I say dating, I don't necessarily mean sleeping with them. What I do mean is that you're actively flirting with multiple girls at one time. And these are girls that you can probably assume that if you were to ask them out to just get coffee or hang out or whatever, there's a high chance they'd say yes. And the reason why I have this perspective, this comes from personal experience. I've found that if you are trying to pursue just one girl at a time, your behaviors and attitudes toward that one girl becomes it's not ideal for attraction. I'll put it that way. Like, you become very needy. In my personal experience, you become very needy. You can be a bit clingy, and you can be overly concerned about what she's doing at all times and getting validated by her. So I say this because back in the past, when I was first getting into pickup and really first trying to get into dating, I think the very first girl I went on a date with, and I kind of got lucky because she actually went out with me on a date. But the very first girl I went out on a date with, I can't remember her name. It was like some French sounding name. I think it was like Chantel or something like that. I don't remember what it was. But I matched with her on like Tinder, and we hung out, did like hookah, which I don't even like hookah, but I just did it because it was like literally like my first date, and I didn't know any better. And I was like, oh, well, I'll try it because she likes it. Because she was the only girl I was talking to, I was far more likely to just say yes to things she wanted to do, like hookah. Or if she ever texted me, I was almost like waiting for the response. Like, I always had my phone in my hand, like, oh, is she gonna respond? Is she gonna text me? Is she gonna text me? Oh God, I'm waiting for the text. And then if she texts, I would like respond right away because I was just holding onto the phone, I was trying to create rapport. At the time, I didn't know what rapport was or anything like that, but that's effectively what I was doing. I was trying to create rapport. And you become kind of like needy and validating and overly validating to her. If she says like, oh, I like this type of movie, even if you don't like the movie or even if you've never experienced that movie, you're more inclined, or at least this was my experience, I was more inclined to go along with it and be like, oh yeah, I do like that movie, or I could try liking that movie. I've seen dudes, I've never done this, but I've seen dudes who will like a girl and they'll be meat eaters, like just almost purely carnivore diet. And the girl will be like a vegetarian or a vegan. And they'll shift their perspectives and their behaviors and their attitudes towards meat just to appease her, which I think is a terrible thing to do. And so this is the reason why I say you should be always dating multiple women until you at least find one that's exclusive, if that's what you want to do. If you want to be in like a polyamorous relationship or polygamous, whatever, I don't care. You do what you want to do. But if you want to just have a monogamous relationship, still be dating multiple girls until you make that monogamous relationship happen. Does that make sense? And it prevents all the negative stuff. It prevents you from being like overly validational. Because I say this because if you're dating, say, like 3 girls at one time or 5 girls, or whatever, say you have like 5 girls on Tinder you've matched, and you can, at any point, you could probably message them, and let's just say hypothetically, they'd all say yes. If one girl says, I don't like, let's say you're a big horror movie fan. I love horror movies, so I'm just going to use it myself as an example. If one girl said, I don't like horror movies, I refuse to watch a horror movie with you, I could easily just say, okay, no, I like horror movies. Next. And then go to one of the other 4 girls. However, if you're in the situation where you only have one girl that you're talking to, and she says, I don't like horror movies, you're more inclined to just go along with it and say, well, I like horror movies, but sometimes I don't like watching them. I'm down to watch what you want. Does that make sense? So I bring this up because this is a counter to the flaking and ghosting. This is a counter to the flaking and ghosting because I feel like part of me gets the feeling that this comment is written with a little bit of I don't want to say anger, that might be a strong word, but a little bit of disappointment, a little bit of stress, maybe a bit of frustration, which I totally get. But that's a counter to that. If you could be talking to multiple girls at one time, you kind of alleviate yourself of that stress because at any point you realize, oh, if she flakes, whatever, I'll go on a different date with a different girl. I'll schedule maybe a coffee meetup at the same day. 10 minutes later, if the other girl's 10 minutes late, I'll say, hey, do you want to meet here in like 5 minutes? And she might say yes. So it doesn't feel that bad. It's like if she flakes, who cares? I have other girls I'm talking to. It doesn't really make me much of a difference. It's almost like in business. If you only have one deal, you kind of get like clingy for that one deal. And I say this for someone when I got into real estate, that was how I was. Like if I had a client, I was super clingy with that client and they would kind of just like run me around. I had a renter, actually. I'm talking real fast, not bad. But I had a renter and she was like a Section 8 renter. And for the record, if you don't know this, in real estate, renting is like one of the worst things you can do for a commission. It's horrible. You don't even really make any money, at least in Northern Virginia, where I live. You don't even really make money because by the time you show properties, go through the whole process, drive people around, drive renters around to multiple properties. And in my personal opinion, I found that renters are tougher than actual buyers or sellers of like homes. Like buyers and sellers can be picky, but I think renters are for some reason super picky. I've only had one renter ever that I can recall that was not very picky. That was super easy. Every other renter was super picky. I don't know why. But by the time you run the renter around, showing them all these properties, trying to make things work, trying to get all their paperwork together, walk through the process, all that stuff, driving them around, wasting gas money, you'll probably get, at least in Northern Virginia, your commission, because it's like a fraction of first month's rent, because you have to split it with your broker. You'll probably get like $500, $600. Depends on the price. Depends on like how much the property is renting for. But let's just say like $500 is your commission. This could be $500 after 4 months of working with a renter. It's not that much money. It's a lot of time and it's a lot of stress. Because sometimes renters just kind of don't care about your time and they just send you properties all day. They're asking questions all day. Again, and it prevents you from getting more business too because you're working so much with them. So not to make this a real estate talk, but if you only have that one client, you're more inclined to validate whatever that client wants. You're more inclined to do whatever you can to keep the deal going. You're less inclined to just detach yourself from the client and just say, screw it, I'm firing you, or I quit from this client. You're needy for that commission. You get that commission breath is what they call it. And it's because that client's the only client you have. Now, if you had 50 clients, this would never happen. If you had 50 clients and one client's being like, just if they're taking their sweet time, they're not respecting your time, they're stressing you out too much, you can easily just cut ties with that one client. You still have 49 clients ready to go, 49 potential commission checks ready to go. Does that make sense? So it's a similar kind of concept with the business and also and with dating. The more options you have, the better off you are. And I think this is true in just life in general. The more options you have in life, the better off you are. To a degree, there is a certain point where if you have too many options, it can be way too stressful and you can actually set yourself up for failure. I think girls have a problem with this. I see girls on like Tinder and Hinge and they get like thousands of matches. And you'll see like on the first 10 matches, like cool dudes, quality looking dudes. And they can't pick from any of them because they have too many options. And they always end up finding like guys who just maybe they stick in their head the most because they're the most outrageous or the most aggressive or the most assertive guys. But this is like another side tangent, but a lot of times the girls don't realize the kind of dudes that are the most aggressive and the most assertive or the most obnoxious are probably the dudes that have experience with a lot of girls, so they're not going to commit, or they probably still have experience with girls too, or they're like the fuck boys who just want to sleep with you and bounce. Which, if you're a girl and that's what you want, that's cool. But a lot of girls, I think, don't think that way. They don't really put two and two together. Like the dude that's the most aggressive and the most assertive and seems to speak my language is probably the dude that's been doing this for a while. He's probably got some experience with this, and he's got experience with this because he's been doing this to other girls. They don't really, I don't know why girls don't really put that logic together. But getting back to the question, because I went on a big tangent. As far as reasons why girls flake and ghost, I think it's a few things. Again, this is all my personal experience. I think part of it is dating is a commitment. I think the idea of going on like a date, doing like a one-on-one activity, and I'm assuming this is one-on-one. He didn't say he or she. I'm assuming it's he. Yeah, he didn't say, but I'm assuming he's asking a girl on a date, or he's been asking girls on dates, and they say yes, and they just don't show up. Again, I think it's for a lot of girls. I think the idea of dating is a big commitment. I've talked to a few girls before, quite a few girls actually, about dating, and I don't think I know of any girls, at least off the top of my head. Not, and I'm excluding people in relationships. I can't think of too many single girls who actually like going on dates. I've talked to so many girls, at least that I've known, about if they like going on dates, and they always say like, "I hate dating. I hate going on dates. I hate the process," which I find interesting too, because as a dude, I think it's a bit more risky. It's a bit more of an investment financially and from a time perspective. I think for girls, it's not that much of an investment. You really just have to show up. For guys, you have to kind of like plan. You have to also show up, of course, but you're incentivized to show up. You got to plan things out. You probably have to pay. You probably have to follow up. You have to probably be on your best behavior to a degree, and you really have to sell yourself to the girl, where she doesn't really have to do much of anything. She just has to show up. She doesn't really need to sell herself, because most dudes are thirsty and most guys aren't that picky. So it's favorable for her to go on dates. It's not that favorable for guys, but it is what it is. But yeah, I think it's a lot of pressure. Um, I also think, again, my personal experience, I tend to find that a lot of times girls say yes to things based on, isn't true of all girls, but I find it to be true of a lot of girls. They commit to things based on how appealing it is to them at the time it's presented. And what I mean by this is, say you're a dude and you meet a girl, and let's say she's actually into you. She's not like a 10 out of 10 into you, but she's like a 6 out of 10 or a 7 out of 10 into you. Like, she's lukewarm into you. You say to her, "Let's go on a date Friday." It's Monday at this point in time where you're asking her out. She says yes, because she might actually want to go on a date with you. Wednesday comes around, or Thursday, or even Friday, maybe 3 hours before you guys are supposed to meet up. And someone else gives her a call and says, "There's this cool party going on. Drake's going to be there. There's a bunch of cool stuff happening." She's going to pick Drake. And Drake's an extreme example, but hopefully you understand the point that I'm trying to make. She'll pick the fun event that seems less likely to occur over going on a one-on-one date with you. Again, this is assuming she's not like 10 out of 10 into you. If she's like 10 out of 10 into you, it might be different. She might choose you over the party, because you are more, going on a date with you is more appealing than going to this event, whatever it might be. But in general, I tend to find most girls are probably going to see most dudes as like a 7 out of 10 in interest, at least initially, maybe an 8 out of 10 in interest initially, unless you're like a celebrity or high status. And it's easy to top a 7 or 8 out of 10 experience for a girl. There's always something that can come up that's far more appealing. And also, you got to think about it too. Recency has a powerful effect. Like, if you make an offer to a girl on Monday to go on a date, it probably feels stressful. It's probably sitting in her head. She might forget about it, But if I say to a girl, say it's like 4 p.m. on Friday, and I say, "Hey, at 9 p.m., this is cool frat party." Let's assume she's in college or whatever. "This is cool frat party. It's like the best frat in town. They're letting people in. We got invited. You got to come with me, Sarah." She's gonna be like, "Well, fuck, like, no one ever gets into that frat party. It's a good frat party. It's a good party. Like, when's the next time you're gonna be able to go? Who knows? I gotta go now. Let's go tonight. Let's go tonight. Oh, but don't you have a date with Johnny tonight? Oh, it's okay. He'll be okay. He won't. It doesn't matter. We're going to date like next week." Does that make sense? Like, she can put off the thing with you because you'll be around. She assumes that party is more scarce. It's a 9 out of 10 experience. You're like a 7 or 6 out of 10 or 8 out of 10 experience. Hopefully that makes sense. And I think that's why girls ghost and flake so much. It's just because they have so many different opportunities being presented to them at all times. They pick the one that's most appealing at that specific time when they want to do something. So I mean, this is, again, I truly think a lot of this comes down to like a numbers game. I don't really know if there's a true way to work around this. I don't know if there's any specific way you can follow up with a girl to guarantee that she'll not flake. I don't know if that exists. What I would do when I was actively dating, not a girlfriend, but when I was actively like going on dates with different girls, again, what I would do, one, be talking to multiple girls. It prevents you from caring too much. If one girl falls through the cracks, who cares? There's other girls you can be talking to. Two, this is something that I learned. Don't present again, I'm kind of putting words in this person's mouth or in his text, whatever you want to call it, because he didn't say this specifically, but I imagine he's saying this when he's inviting girls on dates. I don't like I don't like saying that it's a date. Usually what I like to do is I'll invite a girl to coffee and I say, "Hey, let's go get coffee and talk about A, B, and C." Or I found this cool place down the street, want to get coffee here or want to go hang out here. That's kind of how I present it. Like, I found this cool place, want to hang out. And sometimes I'll be like, if I'm trying to make it clear that it's going to be just one on one, I'll say like, "Hey, I want you seem cool. Let's go meet, check out this place. Let's get coffee at this place." You can be a little bit like, you can be honest about it and say, "Oh, it's just us two," because you don't want to like creep her out and then she shows up and then it's just you two and then it's like, "Oh, I thought there was more people. What the hell is this, a date? Like, what's going on?" You don't want to ambush her. But I try to present it like it's a fun thing, like it's a cool event, like it's a cool place, but ahead of time. I don't like calling it a date. I think that word date just triggers like defense mechanisms in girls. So I avoid that word for the most part. And then this is like the last thing I would do. I mean, this is a slower process, but I think it's a worthwhile process. I would just kind of have a social circle and I wouldn't even invite her like to a date. I would just invite her to a cool event. I think I've said this in videos before, but say there's a girl you're interested in. I would never, I wouldn't initially, for the most part, I would not initially say to her, "Let's go on a date. Let's go get food at, let's go on a date at this restaurant. Let's go on a date to get coffee." I wouldn't say that. I would say, "Me and some friends are going to Dave and Buster's," or "Me and some friends are doing A, B, and C on Friday at 8. I would already give a time, specific time and specific place, and make it seem fun. I would say, "Do you want to come? If you're free, come join." Something along those lines. And I say you want to say it in a certain way because you don't want it to sound like a commitment. Like if you say, "If you're free, come," that sounds better than "Let's go on a date at this specific time and specific place." Because one sounds like a commitment, and commitments tend to be partially boring, but you feel stuck. It's not fun. It's not pleasant. It's not pleasurable. But being flexible and saying, "Hey, let's meet at this place. Me and some friends are going. Come through if you're free. If not, that's cool." It doesn't sound like a commitment. It just sounds like you're some fun guy that does fun things and you're trying to bring her along for the ride. But if she doesn't show up, no big deal. No pressure to her. She doesn't need to feel guilty. She doesn't need to feel awkward about it. That's just my 2 cents. That's what I would probably do. And I think over time, if you invite her to stuff like this and she actually has a good time, she'll probably just want to hang around you anyway. And then if you do invite her to like a one-on-one thing, it's not going to be as difficult to do. It's going to decrease the chance of her flaking or ghosting because at this point, you've already shown that you're fun to be around. You've shown that you can plan things out. There's not that much to worry about. It's not a big commitment. It is what it is. And she'll probably show up. So that's just my 2 cents. Hopefully this video wasn't too long and too confusing. But yeah, let me know what you think. If you're a girl, by the way, watching this, let me know in the comments what you think about this whole video. Let me know if you think my perspective is right. Maybe some girls disagree and think my approach is terrible. And if you flake, and I'm sure you have flaked before, don't lie, let us know why you flaked. Make sense? But yeah, be sure to like the video and please subscribe. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year. I'm really trying to get there by like March or April. So if you want to help me out and like subscribe, that'd be pretty cool. But yeah, do that. I'd be super appreciative. I'd sing at your wedding. And until the next video, I'll see you. Peace out. Bye.